the Master Jesus openly talked about reincarnation. He did. He it was who said, Elijah has come already, and they knew him not. Also, the disciples of the Master Jesus openly talked about reincarnation. They were the ones who said, Rabbi, who said this man or his parents that he was born blind? Sometimes I wonder, I do, why many Christians who are anxious to rebuff the doctrine of reincarnation have never paused to reflect over biblical statements that authenticates the doctrine of reincarnation. The Jewish priests and Levites asked John the Baptist, what then? Are you Elijah? He said, I am not. Are you the prophet? He answered, no. King David reincarnated as Jonah. Jonah was later reborn as Simon Peter. Elijah reincarnated as John the Baptist. What about this biblical statement in Luke 20:36? Neither can they die anymore. Is this not a crystal clear indication that they have died before? If you watch this video till the end, you will know that the doctrine of reincarnation, atunwaye, inonwa, ogbo or yeli, exists in the Holy Bible. Let's go hunting for reincarnation passages in the Holy Bible. Without reincarnation, it is impossible for a Christian to get the 100-fold reward promised by the Master Jesus in Mark.
Mark 10:29-30. And Jesus answered and said, Verily I say unto you, there is no man that has left house, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands for my sake, and the Gospels, but he shall receive 100-fold now in his time, houses, and brethren, and sisters, and mothers, and children, and the lands, which persecute, and in the world to come eternal life.
In these verses, the Master Jesus was assuring his followers that the efforts they made for the sake of spreading the gospel will definitely be rewarded. The Master Jesus assured them that they shall receive 100 times returns. Now, in this present age, homes, brothers, sisters, mothers, children, and lands. Solve the puzzle if you can. Figure it out. How a true Christian will get the rewards promised by the Master Jesus without reincarnation, without living more than once on earth. Of a truth, I tell you, there is a subtle verse in Luke 20:36 that equally confirms that the Master Jesus talked about reincarnation.
Luke 20:36. Neither can they die anymore.
Did you hear? This subtle verse shows that they had already died, and definitely more than once. My brother man and sister woman, don't forget, we have been told in the book of John, the world may not be able to contain all the books describing all the utterances and activities of the Master Jesus.
John 21:25. And there are also many other things that Jesus did, which if they were written one by one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that would be written.
Of a truth, I tell you, Origen of Alexandria, one of the most influential members of the early churches, really believed in reincarnation. Sadly, in the years 543, the elites of the early churches condemned the doctrine of reincarnation put forward by Origen. The early church fathers don't want their followers to know too much so that they will have absolute control over them. In Matthew 16:13 down to 14, the Master Jesus said to his disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" They responded, "Some people say you are Elijah, others say John the Baptist, and some assumed that you might be one of the prophets." I will show you.
Matthew 16:13-14. He asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" So they said, Some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets.
Quite revealing. The disciples told the Master Jesus the people were speculating on who he might have been in a past life or lives. They were speculating. Maybe in a past life, the Master Jesus must have been John the Baptist or Jeremiah or Elijah, etc. And amazing as it may sound, the Master Jesus never rebuked his disciples. He never told them point blank, it was wrong of you all to say such things. Now, concerning Elijah, the great prophet and miracle worker, the disciples of the Master Jesus asked him when they were coming down from the Mount of Transfiguration, why say the scribes that Elijah must come first? His disciples were referring to the prophecy God gave through Malachi.
Malachi chapter 4 verse 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
What did God meant when he said he was going to send us Elijah the prophet? God was telling us that Elijah was going to be reborn in a new human body before the birth of the Master Jesus. Interestingly, the Master Jesus also confirmed the prophecy concerning the coming of Elijah.
Matthew 11 verse 14. And if you are willing to receive it, he is Elijah who is to come.
My brother man and sister woman, a retired military officer may be recalled to active duty because his training and skills were still assets, even if he had retired. Yes, we all know that Prophet Elijah was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind, but God prophesied through Malachi that Elijah, a competent prophet and miracle worker, will come back again to planet Earth. What was he coming to do? To prepare the way for the Master Jesus. The disciples of the Master Jesus wants to know when Elijah will be reborn again on this earth. The Master Jesus told them Elijah has already been born, but they didn't know who he was. Eventually, the disciples realized that Elijah reincarnated in the body of John the Baptist.
Matthew chapter 17 verse 10 to 13. And his disciples asked him, saying, why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first? Jesus answered and said to them, indeed, Elijah is coming first and will restore all things. But I say to you that Elijah has come already, and they did not know him, but did to him whatever they wished. Likewise, the Son of Man is also about to suffer in their hands. Then the disciples understood that he spoke to them about John the Baptist.
My brother man and sister woman, Jesus' disciples had in-depth knowledge of the law of karma and reincarnation. These can be confirmed from the question they asked the Master Jesus, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?
John chapter 9 verse 2. And his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?
Quite revealing. The disciples of the Master Jesus knew that karmic consequences could manifest in the form of physical blindness in a human body. The disciples of the Master Jesus knew that karmically generated sicknesses exist in many families. That's why they were speculating. Maybe it was the sins of the parents of the blind man, or perhaps the sins of the blind man himself that ensured that he was born blind. He came into this world as a blind baby boy. Therefore, if his blindness was the outcome of sin committed by him, definitely the sin must have been committed in a previous life. Being born blind often means that the blind person or the parents of the blind person must have committed a grievous sin in a past life. My brother man and sister woman, a cloudy passage in the book of Luke confirms the reincarnations of Jacob and Isaac. In this passage, it is written, now that the dead are raised.
Luke 20, verse 37 to 38. Now that the dead are risen, even Moses showed at the bush, when he calleth the Lord the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. For he is not a God of the dead, but the God of the living, for all live unto him.
Of a truth, I tell you, now that the dead are raised, obviously refers to the actual rebirths of Jacob and Isaac, and not their future resurrections. They would have not been referred to as the living if future resurrections was what this passage was referring to. Reincarnation is a fact, and the Master Jesus knew about it. Why was the Master Jesus so secretive? The narrow gate, the straight gate, the kingdom, the second birth, when they were alone, to them that are without, the dogs, the profane, the vulgar. Jesus sent the multitude away and went into the house. Tell no one that he was the Christ, etc.